Well, hello everyone. So as part of this session, I'd like all of us to participate. I want you to participate. What you get out of it is what you put into it. And with that in mind, I want you guys to have 3 objectives in mind, what you want out of this. And then participate. And when you go away from here, I want you to have 3 action items that you can take away. So this is what I want to do based on what I learned today. That'll give you the most amount of impact that you get driving it out. With that said, we're going to talk about markets and industry, and in that space we're going to talk about, I made a list of notes I want to talk about for the different slides, and then I left that alone. So we'll have to go up from memory. So we're going to talk about customers,
Sorry, that was you.
customers, competition, and SWOT. Who knows what SWOT stands for?
I'm trying to think. It's been 1 year.
Strength, weakness, opportunity, and threat. Okay, so those are the 4 things that give you a SWOT analysis. We're going to get into that a little more detail. Those are the 2 different aspects we're going to talk about. And first item, learning objectives. What are you going to learn out of this? Just going to go through all the list and give you a high level of what are we going to learn out of this. So you're going to learn about marketplace, industry, competition, the 3 high-level objectives. Anything that's related to the marketplace and your customer and your competition, and you doing business in that space. So those are your learning objectives. Now your learning objectives is going to be based on whatever your situation is. So having a learning objective is very useful because then you can keep your eyes up, ears up for what it is you want to know and what it is saying that fits whatever it is you want to know. Okay, assessment. So I have, so one thing I have is on my website, I have put out, let me get some cards to show you where to go get it. So, anybody that wants my card, it's over there and it's here. On the back of it, there's a QR code. On this QR code, that's my website, and there's a tab on there that says events. The top of that page is this event that's happening, and on that, there's a bunch of resources that are available to you if you want. And on that resources is an assessment worksheet. So what that does is gives you an idea of where you stand and your understanding and your knowledge base of all these things that we're talking about in marketing that are very useful and almost critical for your business. And this is for your own evaluation, so you can understand that each one of those questions comes with a lot of description and examples, so you'll understand what that's for, so you can evaluate yourself. And if you fill it out and if you want me to give you an assessment or recommendation, I'd be happy to do it. Okay, with that said, so that's the assessment. So these assessments are for your understanding, for your own evaluation. And it will be very handy for your business and your operation to know how much you know about the things you have to do. Okay. So the first thing is marketing. Yeah, what is marketing? Anybody want to take a guess? In 1 sentence, explanation of what marketing is. Yeah, I mean that's the objective.
Yeah, but you're saying whatever means.
Okay, yeah, that's part of it. Absolutely. So marketing consists of a lot of different things. At a very high level, marketing is the art, science, activity, and logistics of you telling people that you have some value, something of value to sell. And all the things that you have to do to make that happen. It's a messaging mechanism that comes with a lot of logistics and activity. So that's the marketing. Advertising is a big part of it. So is sales. But sales is a much bigger thing. Sales, is the objective of marketing. You want to do marketing to increase your sales. And in order to do it effectively, there's a lot of different things that are involved, and we're going to talk about what those things are. All of those things, and these slides are available on that resource list. So if you want to refer back to it, you can just download it from there. Okay. So first thing in marketing is marketplace. What's a marketplace? Okay. So marketplace is a place where buyers and sellers come together to trade. It can be virtual, it can be physical. There. That's all it is. Buyers and sellers come together to trade. That's your marketplace. Well, what makes a marketplace free market? Okay, yeah. So the free market is not the concept of monetary freedom. It's the concept of freedom of expression. Your ability to come and go as you please. That's what makes the free market free. It does often come with a price tag. So it's not free from a monetary perspective. So that's the free market. And competition. Well, competition is good for both the customers and the vendors. Although vendors often don't accept that. Why is it good for customers? Yeah, it gives you options. You have more than one place to buy your remote from. Because if you have only one place, then they don't have to care, because you have nowhere else to go. So it's good for the consumers for sure. But it's also good for vendors. Why is it good for vendors? Because as a vendor, if I'm selling pens, and Delphine is selling pens, now I have a reason to care, to be good at it. Because otherwise, customers will go to Delphine, and I'll lose out on my customers. So it keeps vendors on their toes. So competition is good for both vendors as well as consumers. The golden rule of sales. We saw this slide in the previous session. So, who has heard of the Pareto rule? The Pareto principle? All of you have. That's the 80-20 rule. That's right. So what this rule says is this Italian, I think it was an economist, figured out one time that 80% of the effects are caused by 20% of the inputs. So what does that mean in marketing and sales? If you have an ice cream shop and you have 10 customers, 2 of those customers are responsible for 80% of your revenue. 20% of your customers. So 20% of your customers are responsible for 80% of your revenue. What that means is that you have got to have a VIP list. Because you have to treat those 20% of your customers extra special. For a multitude of reasons. Some of those reasons we'll get into later. Okay, so that's your 80-20 rule. But what about Deming? Have you heard of Deming? The reason Japanese cars are so solid and so reliable is because of this guy. He was an electrical engineer by trade, but he got into management quite a bit, and he got into quality control. And he spent a lot of his later life in Japan telling them how to do quality control. That was one of the main reasons Japan came out, with really good solid cars. And one of his things is, as you heard in the previous one, is repeat customers, equal profit. And how do you get repeat customers? By being good to them, is one thing. And how do you know if your customers are coming back? Okay, so have you heard of this thing called NPS? It's a net promoter score. The score goes from -100 to +100. Anywhere over 0 is good. Anywhere below 0 is no good. Anything over 50 is excellent. Anything over 70 is world class. You've got to know what your NPS is as a business owner. So you know what your people are thinking about your business and your operation. And on that resources list, there's an NPS tool that you can go to find out what your NPS is. So NPS, Net Promoter Score. That's how you find out if you have repeat customers and how many of them are repeat customers. So, market segmentation. Well, why do you want to segment your market? Anybody want to take a crack? Why do you want to segment? Why do you want to segment your market? So what is market segmentation?
Setting yourself apart.
You're profiling your customers. So, I am selling foot cream. So my customers could be teenage athletes or nurses. And, those are two distinctly different market segments. And when I'm selling stuff, I will say different things to teenage buyers versus nurses. Because they have different values, different priorities, they listen differently. If I say the same thing to both of them, there's a high chance that neither of them are listening. Because I have not targeted my messaging to that group. So one of the main things for market segmentation is messaging. What's another thing that you want to segment your market for? To distinguish your product, right? So one segment wants one kind of product, a different segment wants a different kind of product. They want the same solution, same product line, but different variations in the product. Because if I target, for example, the teenage athletes, I can take that to a high-priced neighborhood and offer to sell premium products. And I can sell my same product, a lower value product, to a lower priced neighborhood, right? But nurses, I may sell just one product to all nurses. That gives me an ability to gauge who wants what kind, to be more specific in my sales operations. So that's another thing for market segmentation. Okay, who is your target customer? So what market segmentation leads to is customer profile, or the other way around. They're kind of related. So you profile your customers, you get market segmentation. So the profile is, again, how do you do the profile? So there are 3 different models for your profile. Demographics, which is essentially your age, sex, marital status, education, all that information that gives you a projected set of values, which leads to your set of interests, which is psychographic information. So what are you interested in? And that interest leads you to the third one, which is behavioral. So I want to know the behaviors so that I can find out where they hang out and do that behavior, so I can be there and do my pitch. Say, hey, you should buy my stuff. So if I want to sell foot cream to teenage athletes, I can go, put a poster out on a high school football ground, That's the reason for me to do it came from profiling my customers. So if you didn't profile it, you wouldn't know that's what you should do, right? So the three different things, demographic, psychographic, and behavior. Those are the three models that helps you profile your customers and do your market segmentation. Any questions, comments, feedback? What are you thinking? Have you done profiling for your customers? If you haven't profiled your customers, that is a golden box of chocolates. That will give you an immense amount of information about where should you go to get your customers. Market research. What is market research? Anybody want to take it, guys?
Research on your competition.
Any information that you need to run your business better. That's market research. There are two different kinds of market research. Actually, I'm going to talk about it in reverse order on this slide. So there are two different kinds of market research. There's primary research and there's secondary research. The primary is you going to your customer saying, hey, this is my product. What do you think of it? How does it taste? How does it feel? How is the service? Everything you want to know directly from your customers. That's your primary market research. The secondary is when you go to an online source, a market research company, the library, the Census Bureau, say, hey, I need some information. That's your secondary market research model. And both of those are important. You can't be one over the other. You have to do both of those. And the secondary research gives you more information about the market, the industry. So if you wanted to know, say if I'm selling ice cream, in front of my house, and Bob's Crimsicle shop is selling ice cream across the street or across on the other side of town, I want to know more about Bob's operation. How is my product better than his? Well, I have many ways of doing it. One of them would be something that we'll talk about later. The primary source, that I actually send some people to find out, do a taste test. And whose ice cream is better? Who's got more flavors? And another one is go to my library and find out, what's Bob's revenue. And go to Google, find out what's Bob's ratings. So those are secondary sources. I want to know how Bob is doing. I want to do as good or better. And if I'm not doing as good or better, I can find out why when doing primary research. So that is market research. Have you done much market research? It is very important to do market research. It's very important to do both of those, primary and secondary. If you haven't done it, it is mandatory. You cannot get out of it. If you want to be a viable business model, it has to be a market research. Because you have to know what you need to do that. Conducting market research and creating a plan. Okay, so we're going to go through an example in this case. Okay, so how do you conduct market research? Well, there are three different aspects to it. First one, objective. Find out or identify what it is you want to know. I want to know if Bob's ice cream is better than my ice cream. That's my objective. Second is source. Who or what has the information that I need to know? That generally comes from well, in this case, it's going to come from my ideal customers. Say for my ice cream shop, my ideal customers are 5 to 10-year-old children in area code 12345. So that's my source. And how do I find out? The third part of your market research is creating a plan, is data mining. Creating a plan to get the data to find out what it is I want to know from the source that has that information. So mining is number 3. And how do I do mining? Creating a plan. So in this case, in comparing my ice cream shop, who can tell me one high-level plan that I can do? Well, I'll tell you one thing I would do. I'd go to a middle school, ages 5 through 10, or an elementary school, or somewhere in between, and go to their lunch cafeteria and take a bunch of Bob's ice cream, take a bunch of my ice cream, and create a list of questions, say 5 to 7 questions. Say, hey kids, at lunchtime, you can have an ice cream if you answer 3 questions, 5 questions. What kid's gonna say no to that? If you get 100 kids to respond, you have a wealth of information. That's just 100 ice cream. You have a wealth of information about how Bob's ice cream is, how your ice cream is, or whatever it is you want to know. Well, you're going to have to talk to the school. Bob's selling ice cream publicly. Bob cannot stop you from giving away his ice cream. So, if they have some constraints, you should, in whatever case it is, you should talk to a free attorney, and ADC can hook you up with, free attorneys. Hey, make sure that, I'm not violating anything. Bob may say, hey, my ice cream is only for kids, not for the competition. And they may have created some elaborate, comprehensive mechanism for doing that, and big companies do that. For small companies, don't really care. Unless Bob is a franchise, running worldwide, you shouldn't have much to worry about. So that's how I would do my market research, the primary research. The secondary research I could do, by going to the library and finding out, what Bob's revenue looks like. How does that compare to mine?
Good question.
Yes.
So when you have a product, it's easy to do these kind of things. What about when you have a service?
Yes.
When you provide a service?
So we're going to get into in the industry section, we're going to get into the hierarchy of, products and services. It's more challenging for services. Say, for example, I have a financial service. And, that you can't really hold it, and ask somebody about it. So you have to explain to somebody what it is they do, collect testimonials, and be specific about your questionnaire, and create aggregates on your feedback mechanism. So it's harder to gauge services. That's why you need a better, more stringent feedback loop for services, especially if you have service-based industry. People can't eat your bookkeeping service, so they have to find out how good it is by looking at your review, saying, hey, 2,000 people reviewed this person, and they're at 4.8. And what does that tell you? They are fantastic. Versus, 5 people reviewed them and they're all 5. Well, sure, that person may be good, but those 5 people may be their cousins. So not only do you want testimonials, you want as much of it as possible. Research and creating a plan. So, both of those, so when you create your questionnaire for your data mining piece of it, make sure that questionnaire is can be responded to on a numerical basis. So when you send your people, say you hire your ideal customer audience, a subset of it, and send them to Bob's ice cream shop, and find out how his ice cream shop is doing. You want to hand them your questionnaire, saying, I want you to rate Bob's shop, on these 5 categories on a 1 to 5 scale, so that you have exact identical verbiage and identical rating model, as well as, we're going to just SWOT in this a little bit more, the same person with the same analysis for different providers, so that you reduce bias as much as possible. So that's all about market research. Any questions about market research, creating a plan? Moving on. brings us to marketing conclusion. So once again, the marketing is the act of you telling people you have something valuable to sell. And all the things, all the activity, the science, the art, the logistics that go with that is all inside marketing. And you have to do marketing because it doesn't matter how good your product is, if no one knows, they can't buy from you because they don't know. You have to let them know. Marketing is the activity of letting them know. Okay, so now we come to the second part of our series, of this session, is that competitors and industry. So, what is an industry? Industry is not specified here, but there are 4 levels of industry. And each level depends on the previous level existing.
Yeah, that's all my question.
So the primary industry, anyone want to take a guess what's a primary industry? Farming. None of this can exist if we don't have food. Farming, mining, fishing, those are all primary industry. Secondary industry is based on top of farming, which is manufacturing. Tertiary industry is moving on to more the human like, service-based. Finance, healthcare, those are all tertiary industries. And quaternary industries are based on top of the third one, which is more knowledge-based. IT, market research, those are all quaternary. Those are the 4 different levels of industries.
What was the third one?
Third one is a service.
Service.
So the first one is farming, primary, farming, fishing, mining. The second one is manufacturing. We need the corn to make ethanol, manufacturing. The third one is more service-based. Now that we have corn and ethanol, now we can worry about healthcare. So once we have healthcare, now we can do market research and make it better. That's the quaternary. So each industry, each hierarchy depends on the previous one to sustain. Questions? Well, industry analysis. Hey. I was going to talk about the hierarchies of industry and the industry analysis. But I talked about it here instead. So here is an overview. So we're going to talk about industry, trade associations, SWOT. Those things are relevant to industry. So there. Now we're talking about industry. 4 different hierarchies of industry. And second part of that is trade associations. So groups. Why do we form groups? Well, it's from the old and the childhood adage that says, together we stand, divided we fall. That is why we form groups, so we want to be stronger. And trade associations are no different. They are a bunch of businesses in the same industry, getting together so they can be stronger. They provide lots of different kinds of values. But they do come with cost, so you have to identify for yourself if it's worth it for you to be part of that group or not. If you're too small, can't afford it, well, there's that. But if you can afford it, oftentimes they give you much more value than their cost. Because together we stand. Because they can, as a group, you have more scaling power, more bargaining power. So you have better value by being part of the group. And trade shows are often produced by trade associations who create temporary marketplace for buyers and sellers to come together and trade. At the stadium, for example, on Saturdays. That is trade shows. And those are all good things. You want to be part of multiple associations that are relevant to you. Some of them can even be free, supported by the government agencies. Some not so much. And go to as many trade shows as you can. That gives you an opportunity to network, see what other people are selling in your industry. It gives you all kinds of ideas. The competitive environment. So we already talked about competition and how important it is for consumers, as well as for providers. Although, if I'm the only one selling pens, I would much rather prefer that Delphine didn't sell pens too. Because then I can charge whatever I want, and you don't have a choice. And I don't even have to be good at it. I don't even have to have good pens. I can sell copy pens and charge you $1,000 for a pen, because I'm the only shop in town. So that's monopoly, and that's bad. The second Delphine decides that I'm going to sell pens too. So suddenly you have somewhere else you can go to buy pens. And I have to reduce my prices of pens from $1,000 to $5. And I have to be good at what I'm doing, because if I'm not good at what I'm doing, you'll go to Delphine. So that's your competitive environment. Questions, comments, feedback? And again, this whole slide is available at that QR code. So if you want to download this right now on your phone.
Anybody need a card?
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Moving on. And main competitors. Okay. Let's talk about main competitors. Generally, you want to know your primary competitors in whatever industry market you're doing business in. Why do you want to know that? Well, if you didn't, how would you know how well they're doing compared to you? Or how would you know if your customers are all going to them and not to you? In order to find out valuable, sustainable information, you have to know what your competition is. You have to go find out, do your Oppo research, and find out what they're doing that brings them their customers, and how you can take them away from them and make them come to you, or encourage them to come to you. Okay, so this one suggests that know your competition and do your research yourself. I would deviate a little bit from that model. I would say that instead of you doing the research, because you are too biased, you are not free of your opinion of your business versus theirs. So whatever you write down will be emotionally biased. In order to remove that bias, find your ideal customer base, a subset of it, and hire them to do the research, because they're not biased. Because they're just buying product from this guy and that guy. But you have hired them, so that will cause some kind of bias. If you want to remove that bias, you allow them to do their rating. When you hand them the sheet, you allow them to do the rating anonymously, so that they don't feel obligated to make you feel better. They're doing strict market research. Say they're going to Bob's ice cream shop and finding out, how many flavors of ice cream they have. Are the flavors any good? Are there a lot of people? Are there exotic flavors? How good do they taste? All that information, if they can submit it anonymously, then they're not obligated to be nice to you, even though you hired them to do it. So that's what I would recommend you do it instead of doing it yourself. And that set of questionnaire that you have, so make sure the questionnaires you're doing your research with, you know, you can answer them on a rating basis, on a 1 to 5 scale. What that does is gives you a way to put algorithm on top of the results you get. So that you can have a computer tell you all kinds of interesting things, instead of you trying to decipher, you know, what does it mean. So that's why you want to have those questionnaires, you know, rated on a 1 to 5 scale, or whatever ratings you're interested in, or make sense to you. Finally, we come to the SWOT analysis. Strength, weakness, opportunity, threat, SWOT. And you want to know that for all your competition and yourself. And you want to know it because then you can do something about it. If you know what your competition's strengths and weaknesses are, you can compare that to yours. And if you use the same model for your market research, so identify a set of questions that can be answered to on a 1 to 5 ratings, you know, that's your mining operation. And if you do the SWOT analysis based on that model, then you can put this through a computer to give you all kinds of recommendations. But you have to do it using the same model, same approach to minimize the bias and have sufficient volume of information. So you want the SWOT rated by at least 50 people. 30 is the critical, and they say, you know, for small businesses. You know, you want to have more than 30. You want to have 300. More than merrier. But 30 is the minimum critical threshold for meaningful data from your target customers. So that's your SWOT analysis. Oops. That's your SWOT analysis. And you can do this, you know, like any other market research. Identify your objective, identify your source, and create a mining plan. That's it. That is all of our marketing and analytics that goes with it. So once again, you know, that QR code at the back of that business card is a website that has an events tab. The top of that events is this event. It comes with a lot of resources that are listed on there. So if you want to download the slide, or there's an NPS tool on there, there's an assessment mechanism on there. All these resources you have access to, you can download as you please, or fill out those forms as you please. And if you and that's my website, and you can contact me. All my contact information are on that website. And it's been wonderful chatting with you, and you know, I hope you got something interesting and helpful and actionable out of this. And make sure you write down 3 things you want to do after this event today. Is that these are the 3 things I want to do based on information I learned here at the ADC on this Saturday. That will give you much more value than if you just, you know, let the notebook drop and do it. Any questions, comments, feedback? Yes, please.
Actually, was saying about that service.
Yeah.
You know, like you know, it's like what's the challenges serving people with products.
Yeah. Elaborate a little bit? Oh yeah. Service is much harder to do it, so you need more planning. So for example, if I'm selling legal service versus ice cream. Ice cream, I take it to a customer and say, hey, what do you think of this ice cream? It's much easier to do, right? Logistically, physically. But if I'm selling a legal service, I can't take the legal service and ask somebody how you do it. I have to explain things to them. I have to create an infrastructure that requires logistics and planning. So in the case of service, your feedback model becomes a lot more important. Because if I'm selling legal services and 100 people have reviewed and said, yeah, I am an excellent provider of legal services, that tells my potential customers that I'm good, right? So I can, instead of taking my legal, comparing to taking my ice cream to somewhere, I can take my rating, Google ratings to somewhere saying, hey, look at me. What do you think of me now? Would you like to come do business with me? You know, so that gives me my ratings, my feedback model, my publicly accessible feedback model, gives me a way to tell people, you know, how good I'm doing. Or if I'm not doing good, that gives me an idea of what I need to do to fix it. Does that help? What do you think?
It helps a lot because I go into people homes a lot and sit down trying to sell my business to them.
Okay.
Like you said, it's like, I don't know what to say and how to say it.
Yeah. One of the things that was on my list that I didn't talk about is value proposition. So since you brought that up, value proposition is an important aspect of your business, especially if it's a service-based business. Your value proposition identifies what you're selling, why should they buy it from you? You know, whatever you're selling. You know, you quantify that information in a way that gives you a way to express yourself. So this is why you should buy from me. So you should do value proposition analytics. And on my website, there's a template that you can use to do your value proposition. So you can find out what you should tell your people for them to buy stuff from you. And that's a lot more important for service-based organizations versus ice cream shops. Because, you know, if my ice creams don't taste any good, nobody's going to buy. I'm going to change my ratio of ingredients, right? To do something different. Similar things apply, but harder to get in a service-based environment.
Quick comment. I had a guy come unlock my car the other day.
Yeah.
My key in the car. But then he had a QR code right on his phone for me to scan.
Yeah.
And it took me directly to his review page. You know, I had
Right
to
on.
do was, I scanned it was right there. I was like, oh, great service, submit. So making
Yes.
it easy like that, to get reviews like that.
That is
stuff
a
like
very handy way of doing it. Get a review. If you want reviews from your people, you have to make it as easy for them as possible. If it's any difficult, they're not going to do it.
Yeah.
You have to make it easy, and sometimes you have to give an incentive too. Say, hey, you know, if you review me, I'll give you a free ice cream or whatever. You know, but remember, you don't want to buy your reviews because that has a very negative connotation. You know, you do not want to associate, you know, like buying reviews. You know, because whenever you offer something in return for reviews, make sure those reviews are anonymous, that they cannot be tied to an individual person. Because when you allow them to be anonymous, then you can give them as much as you want. It doesn't really matter because they're not reviewing based on. They may review based on stuff, based on you offering something, yes, but they're not held by it.
That's just like with Instagram, you know, you would buy people to like, you know, say your product is good, they'll post you on their story. They never even had your product or nothing like that, but they'll just, you know, say stuff for you, but then if somebody will research it, they're like, this ain't even a real, you know, place where this person is,
There's a
you
lot
know,
of
like,
things
yeah,
that
so
happen.
I did that before, and I was just like, ooh, that was a waste of a lot of money.
Yeah, I mean, you know, so in the testimonial space, in order to get past the fact that they paid somebody or they bought the reviews,
Yeah.
that you want to have the reviews, as many of the reviews as possible, because if they have 2,000 reviews, a good percentage of that is not bought. You know, so you want as many reviews as possible in order to get past the questionable behavior in the review space. And for yourself, if you want reviews for your business, make sure you allow them to do it anonymously. Google reviews are not necessarily anonymous, but they are, in a lot of ways, very objective. In that me as a business owner can't go to somebody else's Google review on my review and change it. You know, that person reviewed it, and Google makes sure that I can, you know, modify it. So in that way, it's objective. And on that tool, there's another review app, that's my review app, that gives you a way to do it anonymously. It's free, and it gives you a way to do it anonymously. So it tells you people, I'm paying you $100 and you can review me, but I can't tell that you were the one who reviewed it. I'll just see, I'll review, somebody reviewed it. And this is what the quantitative review model is. Or values are. So that's reviews.
Any other questions before we wrap up?
Sold to the highest bidder.
Let's give a round of applause.